You know, I'm passionate about this concept, about the church being with you and for you and to spur you on. And when I say the church, I'm not talking about the cross and flame, okay? The church, of course, we know is the people. I'm talking about you. I could preach about this for a lot. I'm very passionate about it, but I also believe that people are more impacted by hearing how God has moved rather than being educated about how God can move, how he has moved. And I want to invite LJ to come forward at this time, and I want to invite Heath to come forward at this time. They do a public display of their faith every Sunday when they're assisting in worship leadership, but I asked them this week if they would mind sharing with us how this family of faith has changed their faith life, how it's impacted them spiritually. So let's hear from them about that.
Guess I'm going first, right? I'll step back here. I talk kind of loud. Most of you guys know who I am. I'm LJ. I go to church here. You guys are my church family, and it's pretty cool to say that. Just a little bit about myself. Some of you have heard this story, and so I'll reiterate really shortly for those that haven't. But I was raised as a really strong Christian in another denomination. That's what I'm going to say. I won't name it out because we're not here to say anything bad about anybody at all, because it wasn't bad. It just wasn't for me at the time. But very strict house. I knew God when I was growing up. I just wasn't engaged in it because I was too busy being mad at my parents for making me go. And so, you know, by the time I raised up and I was 18, I was ready to get out, and I just stopped going. And I started, you know, I lived probably a non-Christian life, I can tell you that right now. I got into some really ugly places. I just was living for myself and living for my buds and hanging out and partying and drinking and hanging out with drugs and all that stuff. It just really wasn't a good place. I didn't hate God. I just didn't think there was a place for me. And, you know, then I just, one day I was like, okay, I got to grow up. And then I met my wife, and she took me to her church, and she went to Methodist church. And, you know, I went into this church thinking, okay, I'm going to go because I'm dating this girl, and I think she's pretty cool, and I want to make sure she likes me, so I'll go to church with her, right? So I go into this church, and I'm sitting down, and people aren't all dressed up, and the lights aren't dim, and candles aren't lit everywhere, and it's bright, and there's a band, and I was like, are you sure this is church? You know, I mean, it kind of freaked me out. And I really got into it. I mean, they had screens and stories on the screen, and people got up and talked, and everybody just loved each other, and I just saw that community right there, and I thought, wow, this is pretty neat stuff. And so I started referring to it as Diet Catholic, because that's what I knew was Catholic. And I thought, this is pretty neat, I can go here. So I started plugging in, and you know, we built a relationship, and we got married in that church, and it was a great church, great opportunity for me to grow and start kind of reaching towards my faith again. And then some things happened. And if you think you can be mad at God and not come back to God, I'm proof that you can. Because at 35 years old, my brother-in-law, who was my best friend, just dropped over dead. 35. Left 4 kids. This happened just about a year before Talon was born. And that just took me out. I was mad at God. I was not going to church. There was no place in my life for a God that would do that to somebody and do that to me. And it took a long time for me to start reaching back for that. I never denounced God. I never said there wasn't a God, but I just knew that I wasn't going to follow that guy. It just wasn't for me. I was going to just be agnostic and I'm just going to exist. And, you know, so that part was missing in my life. And it took a few years until, it took a little while, and then my mom passed away. And instead of me getting mad about that, she told Holly and I that we need to find God again. And God forbid I don't listen to my mom, because she was a pretty strict lady. But it took some time, you know, and Holly started back on her story, or her journey back to church, and started talking to me about going back to church. And there's a new pastor in town, and you should check this guy out, and it's really cool and all that. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll go. And I went. I met Pastor Matt, and, you know, he's a pretty cool guy. kind of young, kind of different, but he spoke to what I was. We got a lot of things in common, and didn't judge. Nobody judges here, which is amazing because that was so foreign to me that anybody could come to church. And so then I started meeting more and more people in church. And then on a trip up to Wisconsin, I had my God moment. And God spoke to me and said, hey, dude, I got stuff for you to do. And, I knew at that moment I had to listen. So I came back and I started on my journey here, which is just amazing. And it blows me away every day. And I ask myself every day, why am I worthy of all these great things that are happening to me through the church? Because to me, I just don't. I still am like, you got the wrong guy. Look at me. And that's what the church family means to me. And I think that's what Jesus meant, was now, you're not, it's metaphorically your mother and son, and what you are is you're a family and you're together. Because I look around this room and there's people that I have a relationship with here that if I didn't come to church, I probably wouldn't have a relationship with you guys. I don't look like the normal guy. I don't act like the normal guy most times. I'm a little crazy. I'm a little on the edge, but that's me. And God made me who I am. And I think because of that, I'm thankful. I'm thankful for that gift to have a relationship with all you guys. And because of that, I'm forever grateful. And it's grown. It's not just our church family here. To me, the church family is a community of faith. It's Christians everywhere because, I'm rekindling relationships with friends of mine who were in the same boat I was in, and now we are like tight, and it's all because we talk about Jesus, and it's all about the Bible, and we talk about things, we try and keep each other in check because of that. And it's just amazing what it's done for me in my life, and it's the community of faith. That's what it means. We're all family. And it doesn't matter what denomination you are. It doesn't matter if you agree on everything. It doesn't matter because we're all one in God's family. And that's pretty much it. Enough? All right.
Hi. So, I've had a whole boatload of different religious experiences throughout my life. I've kind of bounced around for a while when I was a kid, and for the majority of my formative years, I was a member of the Presbyterian Church here in town, and I hold absolutely nothing against that church or those people because, that's what I grew up with, and they were all very supportive. But me being introverted and, a touch not as bright as I would have liked to been when I was a child, I went to the service and I went to Sunday school and I got the stories. I was taught, but at the time for me, it was words, just words to me. I didn't really receive meaning from it. And the first true close relationship I had with another person of faith was, like many others, was my mother. I remember conversations coming back after church. It was like, well, this is what pastor said. Well, what did he mean? And I, of course, would try to find some meaning of it. And, of course, I was wrong most of the time. But, my mother helped me grow in faith. And to the point of, I still went to youth group. I was confirmed. I went to another youth group outside of town. And I still was just picking up words. And to the point when I was in college, I remember very clearly, I was a freshman, I was young, and I met a gentleman who became a very, very close friend of mine. His name was DeRosia. And I distinctly remember standing having a conversation that lasted somewhere between an hour and a half. And we were just standing outside in the middle of the sidewalk next to the place that everybody called the pub. So we're talking about religion, which is not something I was very versed in at the time, and I believe the phrase that I used almost throughout my college career was, everyone sees God differently, and therefore I believe everybody worships God differently. And thinking back on it, that was my excuse for saying I don't go to church. Not because I didn't care to hear God or not that I didn't care to have a relationship. I was just lazy. So I was trying to cover my excuses. So after college, living here in town, I found a place of my own. And then I think God had said, I've had enough of that. And he sent some old guy who may or may not have just finished speaking to talk to me. And he said, hey, the Methodist Church, we're trying to get this praise team together. We're going to make a church band. I said, well, that sounds really cool. And he said, you know, I know you're a bit of a musician. You come check us out and talk to us and this and that and the other thing. It's like, okay, yeah, I'll come and listen. And then I had a meeting with him and Pastor Matt at LJ's house, and we kind of talked through where I was spiritually and how things were going. And, you know, so looking back, God put that music carrot on the stick and sent a couple of guys to bring me back into my first faith community. Because before I started here about a year and a half ago, I didn't know what a faith community was. You know, I didn't have that interaction with people who cared about where I was at spiritually. And through various small groups and just being up here playing, you know, it's weird. Ashley and I have had the conversation multiple times that, you know, we come in for rehearsal and it didn't work. Rehearsal was bad, and I was not at the top of my game, but it always seems like that when it matters, when we have to help get the message out, that it just fixes itself. And it's nothing that I do personally. It's now I'm letting that Spirit work through me from their encouragement of just getting me back. And been in a couple of different small groups, and proving that people care about me spiritually and that they want to help build me up. Here a few weeks ago, we're sitting up, we're rehearsals, okay. But I look back and I saw a lady that I hadn't seen in a while. She keeps cropping up in my life, and it's like a long lost aunt that I hadn't got to see for a long time. And I saw Linda sitting in the back. Hi, Linda. And I had to restrain myself to not stop in the middle of rehearsal and go give Linda a hug, because I missed seeing Linda. And here a few weeks ago, she brought in a devotional book by Max Lucado, and she had me read a passage out of it. And I was like, this is really neat. I've been meaning to get, some devotional books so I can get myself back into Scripture, because I'm very undisciplined in that. And she brought me a few devotional books that I've been forcing myself, not forcing, but I've been trying to be more disciplined in sitting down and reading, because I want to grow in my faith. And twofold, I don't want to disappoint Linda, because she wants to see me do well. And and I hope that I can get myself to the point where I'm that sort of person, that I can be that support to somebody else. Because for the longest time on my journey, on my path to God, it felt like I was in a car just driving in the fog, and I couldn't see anything. I had no idea where I was going. But through this faith community and the support that I found in this church, it's still foggy, but I'm starting to see the lines, and I'm starting to see the signs, and I think I'm on the path now. So, I hope to continue to grow in that.
I told these guys, like, I don't want to know what you're going to say, just do it, and just speak from the heart and share how this church has impacted you. And, I know there's so many out there that would be excited to stand up and share their stories as well, how this church has blessed them.